In today's video, I want to give you some clear steps on how to leave your 9 to 5 job once and for all, but without risking too much of your current lifestyle. It truly is a red versus blue pill moment when you make the leap. And I want you to do it in a way that you're making good choices that impact you and potentially the other people who depend on you. I've been exactly where you are. When I left my corporate job, I had 2 kids to feed, and I took the leap away from 9 to 5 into self-employment. And that was all the way back in 2015. Continue watching this video if you're willing to part ways with the status quo, because that's what it takes. You're going to have to make really big life changes, and you're going to have to pull people along with you who didn't necessarily ask to come along for the ride. If you've made it this far in the video, then you likely have an itch that you must scratch. It's not a have to scratch, I maybe need to scratch it. It's becoming something that is all consuming to you. You're educating yourself. You're looking at what other people are doing online and their success, or even friends or peers. You're daydreaming about it. You're waking up in the morning dreaming about it. You're leaving work with animosity and tenseness because you didn't push yourself harder to get out of it every single day. And it's just eating at you. And you cannot let the idea go of becoming self-employed and self-reliant. And I've been there. I was 100% there. You, like me, you most likely are becoming borderline unemployable. And I would want to paint a picture for you right now. I want to paint a picture of what it felt like for me to walk out the doors for the last time. I walked out of my corporate job, and I was working at IBM at the time, on October 9th, 2015 at noon. When I did that, it was a physical feeling. I walked out without my badge, the badge that I would use to get in and out of that building for years. I walked out without it for the first time ever. And when I turned in my badge that day, one of the managers made a comment on my right there on my one of the last things I heard from anybody I worked for at there was like, "We'll see you back here again in 6 months, Charlie." I can tell you right now that when I got home that day, I went and made a cup of coffee, and I had my wife take a picture of me. And some of you may know or may not know that I love cartooning stuff or whatever, but I have these mugs by Gary Larson, a famous cartoon called The Far Side. And in this particular mug, I'm holding the exact mug I drank that coffee out of. There's a famous Far Side comic where a dude is in hell and he's just shoveling along, whistling, and these 2 devils over here, or demons, whatever, are like, we're just not reaching that guy. And it was the best damn cup of coffee I've ever drank in my life. Sure, did I have a huge mountain to climb from there? Hell yeah, I did. But I had already been climbing. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, so that I can maybe help you climb and not run into all the pitfalls that I ran into. But I am empathetic to you. I understand where you are. It is eating inside of you. It's eating you alive, and you've got to get out. And it's not even about hating your job. It's not about hating the people you work with. It's not about hate at all. It's just you're built different now. You've grown as a human being. Like, you've grown as an adult of understanding more about how the world works and seeing all the opportunities that you're missing and everything. And you start seeing all that. And I'm always a person that's always said it's not the lack of opportunities, it's choosing the right ones. And today I want to hopefully give you some kind of an action plan based off of my experience. Like, everything I'm about to tell you is like literally some of the things that I did, and I want to help you get there. If you're at the stage that I think you are, if you're consuming this video, then you're just starting out. Then I'm about to go through 5 different areas that I think are most important for you to take into consideration. Now, since I did it back in 2015 versus now, technology has changed. Online marketing has changed. I mean, there was a lot of that stuff then, but you get what I'm saying. Like, things are different now. And hopefully, how you connect with people and all that's important is there for you to leverage in a way that I didn't have at the time. But number one that I want to start with here is that the first thing you got to realize is you got to get serious about your numbers. I always recommend to people when they ask me about like how to do a budget or use software or whatever. I love YNAB. It's a software I pay for annually. It's You Need a Budget, I think .com. I think they recently purchased Mint.com or something. Maybe not. I'm not sure. But I've been using that for years. Me and my wife has a YNAB account where she's the CEO of the household, so she manages our personal finances with it. And then, and in my business, I use YNAB to manage all of my budgets and stuff inside of the business. And so you really need to start evaluating your numbers. What do you truly need to live? Do you, like me, already have a family? What are wants versus needs? Are you willing to take a look at these numbers and really make drastic changes? Maybe you have to do something like Financial Peace University, calling it Dave Ramsey it for a while. My wife and I, before we purchased our house, we knocked out probably $40,000 or $45,000 in debt using the snowball method under Dave Ramsey's program. And then we also, at the same time, while knocking out all that debt, were able to save up our down payment for our house simultaneously. Now, again, at that time we were dinks, dual income, no kids, and all that kind of stuff. But before you start this journey, and you're getting out, I get you. Maybe you're riding to work and you're listening to these podcasts, you're getting the audio books, you're attending events, you may be buying some courses, you may be doing all this, and you're getting all geared up. But I can tell you right now, you better pump the brakes and get back to those numbers. And then as far as mindset's concerned regarding your numbers, drastic changes may have to take place here. I'm talking about socially awkward changes, like leaving the rat race changes. Me and my wife sold our 5-bedroom house and downsized to a 3-bedroom house and moved out to the rural country versus being, in the city in a huge neighborhood or whatever. And we cut our expenses by nearly 2/3. I mean, by moving out there, we went from like city water to well water, so we didn't have a water bill anymore. When we sold the house, we used the money to pay off our vehicles. We did all these different things. Now, you might not be in a situation where you have an asset like that you can flip and then downsize, but you need to be willing to, is this what you want? Being self-employed and self-reliant, is that desire to do it greater than the pain of the social awkwardness and the social changes and all the things that you have to do? My wife and I were willing to make those sacrifices, and we already had 2 children at the time. And so you need to be able to understand your numbers, understand your wants versus your needs, and then also see about what are the avenues that you can take to reduce your liabilities. And then, options give you power. And the less debt you have, the less financial obligations you have, the more options you have to start a business, right? And definitely understand your numbers. And I'm going to talk to you in a little while about your spouse and or your partner and getting them on board. And these numbers are definitely tied into that, but you'll see how I loop that in here in a few minutes. Number 2, though, and this is a big one. You're excited. I get it. You're educating yourself, and there's all these possibilities. But don't quit your day job. Change how you think about your day job. Like, to me, the day job became the venture capitalist in my life, right? I didn't start a business that required a huge amount of cash infusion or big equipment and all this type of stuff. And I'm going to encourage you later to try and follow that path, at least to build a foundation outside of a corporate job so that you can continue going. But if you change your mindset from hating the job to the job is now serving you, right? You've gone to your numbers, you've made sacrifices, you've cut back. Now this job has given you a little bit of financial breathing room because you've maybe cut expenses at home and done that. Now it's your venture fund, right? So in my cubicle at IBM, on the whiteboard in the cubicle, I had the word at the top called and it was incubator. And people would ask me, what does incubator mean? And I would tell them it was a password reminder. But that wasn't it. That job and the income that I had coming in from that high-tech job was basically incubating my business, because I would basically, I Shawshank the cubicle. And that's what you have to do. You have to go into work every day, dig in that cubicle. When you walk out every day for lunch, or when you leave to go home in the afternoon, you drop some crumbs, of that cubicle out in the parking lot as you leave. And so that's, people ask me all the time, and that's how I refer to this. Like, I Shawshank the cubicle. I used the cubicle and I dug myself out of it. And so, like, you must have patience. You have to have patience. And I would come home every day, kiss the babies, play, have dinner, all those different things. But by the time it was around bedtime or whatever, I was in my home office working, sometimes until 1 or 2 in the morning. My clients would know that I would work in these odd hours and when they could communicate with me. But don't get caught up in your own BS. Just don't get caught up in the excitement and I'm going to do this thing. You are now playing the long game. Right? The light at the end of the tunnel is there. It's real dim for you right now where you are, but it will get brighter. And when you get there, you will look back and say, oh, where did that time go? I look right now at October 9th, 2015. It seems like it was just yet. I can't even believe that it's been this long. All right, number 3. And I'm going to get into some personal opinion here, okay? Please, for everybody, this is subjective, and how you want to go about this is you do you, right? But in my personal opinion, and this is based off of experience, is that the fastest way for you to exit your 9-to-5 job is to sell a service. The likelihood that you can create a service offering without a lot of startup costs, a lot of huge startup costs, such as equipment, and to be able to use your brain, your marketable skill you already have, your laptop that you probably already have, your cell phone, that sort of thing. And to also start a business, like my business is location independent. A lot of people talk about online businesses, but when they're talking about online businesses, usually they're referring to memberships or selling courses and digital products and templates and all that. You can still have an online business. It's a service, right? Your business, the marketing of it is online. Sorry, somebody's got a loud car out there, but I'm not editing it out. And basically that's you can still not be tied to, a certain location that customers have to come to and that sort of thing, especially while you're keeping your job. You don't want to have all of that obligation. And then basically you want to be able to communicate with your clients that I offer this service, and set expectations with them about when you can communicate with them. They will understand. They're not going to sit there and not understand that you should always be honest. Hey, I work over here, but I am doing this and I can do this for you. And you set expectations on like how much it's going to cost, how long it's going to take you based off of your schedule, that sort of thing. Another thing I'd advise you about when you're starting this business is to do not take on any partners. Now, if it's your partner, or your spouse or whatever, that's different. But in the beginning, I wouldn't start this out with a partner. You may be excited about what you're doing, and you've got a friend that you've been sharing it with, and you're like, oh, let me pull that friend in. I almost did this myself when I first started out, because I was like trying to pull everybody with me. I'm like, wow, y'all, I'm excited about this. Y'all do this too. Oh my God, let's get free, y'all. Don't do that. That's like mental overhead, and it's going to lead to a problem down the line. If you want to take on a partner once you're established, just to get some gains out of whatever they can bring to the table that you don't have, that you've discovered through other pains and experience, then sure, go ahead and do that. But don't start out that way. We are right now trying to dig you out of that cubicle, okay? So you need to do it on your own. Now, I can tell you right now that if you can start a service business that has recurring revenue, that is the unlock. Okay, now maybe you don't have that kind of service, but I can tell you what got me out of IBM is when I changed from project-based pricing to a recurring revenue pricing model. That's when I started acquiring clients that weren't paying me. I still had clients where I got the client and then they would pay me every few months for projects, right? And it was just a sporadic thing. But then I in the beginning, admittedly, and you probably won't either, and this is a common thing, you aren't charging enough most likely, and I was definitely not. But at the same time, once I did start charging recurring revenue, that shovel in that cubicle started hitting that cubicle hard, right? I was starting to build this kind of, and I think that, I don't remember if it was in Crush It by Gary Vaynerchuk or whatever, but there's a point where your 9 to 5 job and your side hustle start to have friction. And that's a good thing. It's going to be stressful as hell. Just go ahead and know that. But there's going to be a time where the friction comes. And that's when decisions start having to be made, right? And just know this too. And I'm sitting here giving my opinion about how the fastest way to get out of the 9 to 5 is with a service business, but you can change your business later. Like right now, I'm doing this YouTube video for you, right? I've been a marketer in the shadows, and I am starting an online membership community called Small Business Society. And that is a new business in and of itself. It's a bolt-on to the company I already have. But, I am seeing I'm 47 next month, and where do I want to be in the next 5 years? And I already do a lot of coaching and consulting to my clients inside of my business. So I want to take that to more of a group and more leveraged setting and everything. So don't think that what you're building right now is like entombing you or imprisoning you either. Like you might be like, don't have to have it all figured out from the word jump. And you can be like, oh, Charlie, I was going to build these courses and I was going to do all this crap and I was going to do all this stuff. You build a solid, secure foundation first, right? Get you a service business that is very lean and mean by yourself, right? And so basically that kind of leads me into number 4, which is get your foundation in place, okay? I want you to really drown out the noise as what you think a business should be. Right now, I am sitting in what was a fire station. It's remodeled on the inside, but on the outside of my building, you would never know that it's remodeled in here or what's going on inside of this building. I'm out in a rural area in the middle of the country, and don't think you need all of this crap when you first start. What you need is your marketable skill, right? You need that. You need the blessing of those who love you and who depend on you. You need, in practicality, you need a 1-page website. 1 page. It does not have to be a War and Peace website. It is literally, what can you do for that person? How much does it cost? How long does it take? As you accumulate some reviews, put it on there. It needs to be the most simple thing. Get it up there. It doesn't matter what service there is that you need to use to get it up. WordPress, Wix, whatever. I don't care. Know that you're always going to be going through iterations and improvement and optimization, and then it's never going to end. And right now, if you're digging out of the 9 to 5, you need to just get something simple up to where someone can see your offer and roll with it, man. Like so. And then as far as what you need, I would challenge you to say cell phone, laptop, and a notebook. If you can roll with that, like you are winning the game. Now, maybe your service is different. Maybe you need some kind of diagnostic tools and you need some audio video equipment or you need some other things like that. I get it. Not all businesses are like mine that don't have some requirements of startup costs and that sort of thing. You know your business, but as lean and as mean as you possibly can be, do it, right? Use coffee shops to meet with people. Use coffee shops so that you're not going back to your home. Get a P.O. box if you have to have mail. But if you're going to avoid stale mail, avoid it. Don't even deal with it. Really the foundation of the 3 things that you really need to the setup of your business, of these 3 things, okay? You need a solid offer. What are you doing and who are you doing it for? And what is the transformation or the result they get out of it, right? What are the benefits and the features of what they are going to get from you? How long is it going to take? What does their life look like after they get it? All of that kind of stuff. Like, what is your offer? It's like the cereal box. Like you can see what's on the cereal box. What are you getting? You got to have that first and how much you're going to charge for it. The second thing you need is a sales process, okay? You've got to get paid. Now, I'm not an attorney or an accountant or anything like that, and I do recommend that you ain't got to go out and get your incorporate right off the bat, most likely, depending on the type of business you are. I'm not giving you that advice. You got to figure out some of that on your own here. But most people can start out just self-employed, right? And then definitely I would 100% recommend you open a separate checking account so your sales process is set up to where you can receive payments, maybe through Stripe or something like that. You can receive a payment and it go into that separate business account so that you can start thinking about business taxes and your corporate liabilities, which will eventually be different from your personal finances. And you want to keep it's called piercing the veil. You do not want things to pierce the veil, especially if you're claiming certain expenses as write-offs and things like that. So you want to keep those two things separate. That's a piece of the setup of your sales process, though. Your sales process is, how do you first welcome this person in who you could potentially solve a problem for? So how are you doing that? How do you do it on the phone? How do you do it on the one-page website through the form fill out? How do you follow up with them? How do you meet with them? How do you get your offer in front of them? Do they need to sign some little agreement real quick, one-page agreement? What is your sales process to actually go from interested to the yes, right? So you got to have that in place, okay? And then the third piece of this equation is delivery of your offer, right? What is the most efficient way in the beginning for you to go from they've paid you, now you feel the pressure. Holy shit, I've got to deliver now. Have you actually written it down literally on a piece of paper? What are the steps that I'm going to do? And have that, don't just wing it. Know exactly what you're going to do, right? So basically having your offer, a way of selling and collecting money, selling your offer and collecting the money for it, and then delivering on your promise that you just paid for them, right? Now, also, as far as simple setups are concerned, in the beginning, sales should be your number one focus, not marketing and all this other stuff, right? Human networking, building like a network of people to directly get referrals from, human connection, that sort of thing. That's the groundworking of marketing, building your network. That's 100% the game if you're digging out of 9 to 5, right? Find a BNI group, Business Networks International, that meets at like 7 a.m. There are groups out there in cities that meet at like 7 a.m. for coffee and they network with each other. I'm not saying stay in one of these groups for forever either, but if you are just starting out and you need to build a network, you can plug right into one of these groups as a spot for whatever you provide, right? As long as someone else ain't in that spot for that same service. And that's just a starting point for you, right? And later on down the line, once you get traction, you don't need that group anymore, exit it. Also, get your butt on camera as fast as humanly possible. Your cell phone. I'm not talking about going out. I've got like an Omni Pocket 3 or whatever I'm filming on right now. You don't need that shit. All you need is your cell phone, okay? You need to be on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, vertical video, any way that you can get on camera for any reason. Now, I will say this, if you're afraid in the beginning to get on camera, I understand that 100%. I've got gazillion reviews, the proof in the pudding already. And there have been times when I was afraid to get on camera of I'm fat, I'm old, what are y'all going to think about me? And I just don't give a shit anymore. I'm Gen X, whatever. And I can tell you now, after I started and I've been putting out videos and putting them everywhere, all of those fears were just complete horseshit inside of my head. That's first. But second, if you are still afraid to get on camera, I can tell you video is the fastest way for you to get someone to know and trust you online. They're going to see you. They're going to hear you. Real person, real service, even though your business is in its infancy. But I can tell you, if you are still afraid, go back to the beginning of this video and listen to me talk about that itch again that you must scratch. Is the pain of digging out or of getting on video greater or less than the pain of staying in your 9 to 5 job? Ask yourself that question. Do not be afraid. People will support you or ignore you. They don't care. Most of your friends aren't even going to care if you're doing this stuff. The other piece of your marketing puzzle, though, that I would recommend, and I don't think you can do this with a P.O. box, pretty sure you cannot, is that I would do recommend that you get a Google business profile set up. And like you go to business.google.com. If you have to use your home address in the beginning, use it. Get the letter back, do the code thing, because you need to be collecting online reviews. And you need to be updating your Google business profile with pictures and making sure all of your information is correct, because that impacts your local SEO and things like that. And it's a place where you can send people to see that other people have actually used my service, and you can show up on search. So basically, to recap that putting a foundation in place is that lean and mean, a single page website with as few startup expenses as you possibly can get by with, a solid offer, a way to sell and collect money for that offer, and then an understanding of how you're going to deliver that offer, and then some basic human networking, referral networking, marketing inside of with real people in your local community, and then get on video online quickly, and you get a Google business profile. Now, I'm going to circle back. The fourth thing I want to talk about is proven sales, okay? And this kind of goes back to when you can leave. When can you leave the 9-to-5 job? And that is subjective to everybody. That is just your numbers. You've seen the pattern for a certain amount of time, but you need a baseline of proven sales record that you feel confident in. You've got clients that are happy, meaning it's not an idea just still bouncing in your head, bouncing around and in your head. And again, it's not about the lack of opportunity, it's choosing the right ones here. Don't get caught up in other people's problems when you're first taking on clients. Don't get out of scope. And it's something called scope creep. In the beginning, I was terrible at this. Someone would come to me for, this problem and that problem. Can you just include it in all this stuff? And I was so hungry to dig out of that 9-to-5 job that, I can do everything for you. I can do everything for you. Don't get caught up in that. And I can tell you right now, I should start a podcast and I should go out and do all this other crap. No, the thing you need to do is not take another course, not print out a bunch of brochures, not get the fancy office with the coat rack. Don't do any of that. Okay? Sales. That is all you care about. Do not get caught up in the local startup scene. Especially in larger metropolitan areas, there's usually a building that is the startup hub where there's little offices they rent out and things like that. And there's all these people in there building, and they're all building together. And there's all these networking events, these after hour parties, and it's all cool. And it's the startup scene. The hell with all of that. Do not get caught up in that. And basically, don't get caught up in the startup scene. Sales at this stage, more than anything else, is the only thing that matters. And don't let your ego or anything like that get caught up into anything. You need to be humble. You need to have your clear offer made. You need to be bringing in revenue. Right now, you don't need to impress anybody. You don't need to impress people in that startup crap or anything like that. The only people that you should be impressing are your clients with the results that you have provided them. That's your number one concern. You keep the clients happy that you already acquired, and you are acquiring new clients right now. That is your lifeblood. You are digging out of that cubicle one client at a time, right? One offer sold at a time. And if you start thinking, I'm an entrepreneur, look at me, I'm a big peacock, look at my feathers and all that crap. There'll be time for that later. There'll be people coming to you for advice later on down the road. Don't get it caught up into that. Just get out there and sell. If you need help, if you go to my website, go to charlieharper.net/boost. If you go to my website, I've got a free online course there called 5 Ways in 5 Days to Boost Small Business Sales. And if you need help with sales, go there, download that free course. You put in your email address, and on the very next page, the course will be there. And watch that if you need help getting started in sales. Now, number 5, okay, and this is my last one here. No amount of my videos or someone's courses or someone else, Alex Hormozzi's videos, or none of that is going to keep you 100% safe from mistakes. It may trim some of the fat out of mistakes, right? But that's why keeping things simple and lean in this stage of where you are is so important, because the smaller you keep it, the most simple you keep it, you stick to this is my offer and these are the 5 things you get in it. You do all that and you deliver on those promises, the less likely you're going to run into problems with clients and vendors and obligations and things like that. Know who your customer is. What's the transformation you are giving them? How much are you charging them? Or are you charging enough? Ask for reviews and referrals. Every time you have a successful delivery of your offer, be hungry for that review. Be hungry for that referral. Don't be afraid to ask them. And again, like the marketing machine can come later. I'm 100% going to tell you build a personal brand down the line and do all those types of things 100% sure on this channel, okay? But right, if you are the person digging out the 9-to-5 job right now, sales, not startup scene bullshit, not the fancy office, none of that. Sales. You're going to learn from your mistakes, but you're still going to make them. I'm not saying stop educating yourself either. Like, I'm not saying don't avoid somebody like me on YouTube or whatever thing. Continue to feed that. When I would be at my job with my earphones in, or in my truck. My truck was my entrepreneur university. When I was working at IBM in the data center, I'd have my earphones in, working on systems and things like that. And I'd be listening to podcasts. I'd be listening to my Audible. I've got over 200 or 300 books in my Audible account. And I'd be educating myself at those times. But when it's time for you to work, when you step out the door of your night at 5 p.m., have some calls lined up. Do some delivery. Do some prospecting for sales. Have your day, your pockets, your lunchtime, your before you go into work. Look at the amount of time you have. And if you're truly serious, you'll make the time here, y'all. That's 100% true, okay? Now, I can tell you it's worth it. It's hard to believe that I started my side hustle. I sold my very first commercial website in 2001. And it was always a side hustle, always. Until I had my first son in 2010. And it just clicked, y'all. It clicked. I was like, okay, my 9-to-5 job is a single point of failure, and I have a child to take care of now. And I was already had a side hustle. I always had a side hustle and a good work ethic. And I was like, it's time to flip this thing into something more serious. And it took me 2010. I incorporated 2000, I think 11 or 12. And then in 2015, I left. So it took me about 4 years, y'all. 4 years. And through having a second child and all that kind of stuff. And it's not easy. But I can tell you 100% that life now versus life then, it is 100% worth it. 100% worth it. The amount of free time I have now, the things I can do. I've got a family with 4 boys now. Practices. If I want to coach Science Olympiad or coach their teams and be involved in so many different ways. My wife and I sometimes think about what life would have been like if she was still working her speech therapy job and I was still at IBM. All the life events in between then and now, the pandemic and things like that would have impacted our lives differently had we not made these changes. We just don't even sometimes know how some families, unfortunately, can maneuver some of the hard decisions they have to make and the reliance on other resources and things to help them take care of their kids and all this kind of stuff. And it's just like, it's crazy. And I can tell you, if you put your head down, you keep things simple, and you follow the advice in this video, you'll get there. Now, if you have any questions, you can join me for free over at Small Business Society on School. You can find out more about me at charlieharper.net. Thank you for watching. I hope you get a lot out of this video. Leave a question in the comments if you share this video with someone else who may need this kind of information, and I'll see you in the next one.